Start with a P first one. King do what? Protect. Right? So now we know, King, some of us, we may not have known what protection looked like. Now we know what it looks like, right? Because it takes a king to teach a king to be a king. God raised me to be a king, so we breed kings. You did? So what it is, king? What it is, queen? You feel where I'm coming from? Now, what was that next one? Five. I mean, we got to get to the bag. Like, we got to do what's necessary to take care of what God has given us. Because the king is the king because he rules who first? Yourself. So you got to rule yourself. You got to know that when God is giving you a kingdom, right? He's giving you a castle. You got a place to stay, whether you're paying mortgage or rent. That's a castle. Like, he's giving you a queen. He's giving you somebody that you're supposed to nurture, somebody that you're supposed to lead, somebody that you're supposed to care for, make sacrifices for. Protection, providing. What else we learned? We also learned that a king about that action, right? So if there's war jumping off, what a king at?
Front line.
Front line. So let me ask you something, because that was a trick question and y'all fell for it. So when it's drama at your house, when the enemy is knocking on the door of your marriage, and he's trying to kick the door down, he's trying to rob you of your safe space, because you can't bind the strong man, right? You can't steal his spoil until you first bind the strong man.
That's right.
So kings, who's the strong man in the house? In the castle, it's you. So now you got drama on your door. You got that website that you're thinking about hitting. I struggle with that too, so we can talk about that. Right? You got that double take ministry. See, I learned that from these kings that I serve that's teaching me. Like that double take, she look good, she walk by, but you married, so you know you ain't got no business, but you doing that. That means your kingdom is in jeopardy. Like you're about to lose something that God gave you. You understand what I'm saying? So I need you to know, kings, you got to be on point, right? You got to be ready to protect. You got to be ready to provide. You got to be ready to go to war for what's yours. Because God gave it to you. That means he trusted you. That means greater is he that's in you than he that's in this world around you. Now, I need y'all to be ready. Temperature check. We feeling good? All right, so Coach Crump jumped us off. Jeremy took us up there. But listen, now we finna get your mind right. We done got your heart right, right? We finna get your mind right, right? Now this other brother, he's personal to me too. So I told y'all I don't play by my brothers. You got friends, you got associates, you got brothers, right? Like these is my brothers. And again, I don't play by them. So I need you up on your feet right now because I will not bring him up here unless the stage is set right. So if you ready, then I'm ready. I want to introduce the song, present to others. My brother, Dewane, Mutunga!
So, this is personal to me. One, because I'm a man. But this is an act of love on behalf of my brother, right? And a lot of times we see us in rooms and in a relationship, but we don't actually know how we're connected and where it comes from. So for a second, just let me connect the dots going backwards. So I believe, so I was actually going through a really dark time. And my cousin was like, hey man, listen, we're gonna go drive to Atlanta. I'm gonna take you to this conference. Now for y'all that don't know, I'm from New York. So when he said we're gonna drive to Atlanta, I told him he was bugging. That's 15 hours. And I love you, but I don't wanna sit in the car with nobody for 15 hours. So he's like, no, it's gonna be a couple of us, couple of the fellas, we're gonna go. And we get to Atlanta and we get to this conference. And like any little cousin, you kind of like playing off of your big cousin, and you like, you know, he knows everybody, so he's talking. And we get to this space, and I will never forget walking into this room, right? And Mason was actually throwing a nation building conference. And I walked in the room, and a spirit hit me. I didn't know anybody in this room, but I knew I belonged there. That's it. I didn't know why I was here, but I knew that I needed to be in this space. And one of the brothers that was presenting, that I connected with spiritually, was Crump. Right? Now, this is 2014. We fast forward, we doing a retreat. And I want to talk to you about, there's some recurring themes around being a king.
Come on, come on.
Recurring themes. We had met in 2014, but you meet somebody, it's kind of like, all right, bro, it was love. But when he realized who I was connected to and whose I was, right? When it clicked, he was like, oh, you John, cousin? He's like, bro, we family. He's like, your cousin saved my life and saved my marriage. Me and you good. Off the strength. Right? So the relationship got tight. And these are brothers that taught me, right? I was a king and really didn't know what that meant. So for those of you who have seen me speak, you know I like framing, right? I like to just set context for the conversation. So D, hit the slide for me. So I want to talk to you about the role of a king first, right? And I'm gonna read this for a second because I want to set it straight, right? So the role of a king, right? We got to know who we are first. The role of a king, right? A king should uphold justice in all circumstances in his kingdom, even if it goes against his own self or the ones near and dear to him. He should never let the pride of his country fall for the sake of his own self-interest. And he must play his role for the sake of the protection of his people and their rights.
That's good.
I was a king and I didn't know I was a king. It was crazy. It was crazy because I was connected to a community of kings and didn't know I was connected. My cousin had already been in the room. He was already blessing for me. I had an inheritance and didn't even know I had it. Right? And there's a lot that goes into a name. Right? My last name is Mutunga. I remember being a little boy, and my grandfather would always, he's very, very particular about us not being Americanized and following American ways. And, so I remember him sitting me down in his apartment and telling me what our last name meant. Now, side note, all the brothers on the prayer line, what's my favorite prayer? What do I ask for?
Double portion of wisdom and
Double cup of wisdom and understanding. Solomon prayer. I was sitting in a room when it clicked to me. My grandfather said, our last name means Prince of Wisdom and Knowledge.
Oh, wow.
And I have been on a prayer line for years. 2014, I've been on a prayer line for years, and whenever brothers ask me about a prayer request, all I would ask for is wisdom and understanding. But I never made the correlation. Kings came to come get me to remind me of who I was.
That's right.
Come on.
That's right.
And because of my affliction, God knew to send a familiar face to me. Because of my affliction, right? Hit the next slide. I want to talk to y'all about King's disease. So I can talk to y'all, we can learn about what to do as a king. But there's a couple of things we need to avoid doing.
Come on.
Right? Warren Buffett said, the key to being successful is not so much doing things that successful people do, but it's avoiding making mistakes. It's error avoidance. So as I was trying to figure out what to really bring to y'all, I thought about King's disease. Or as us common folk know it, gout. Anybody got family that got gout? Got an auntie, somebody? You got gout, right?
Come on.
Right? And if you know anything about gout, it comes from this buildup of uric acid in the body. The uric acid comes from eating particular foods that are oversaturated. Right? It comes from the overconsumption of foods that people with means and privilege only have access to.
Wow.
Like gout's nickname is the king disease. Back in the days in Egypt, right? In I think it was like 26 BC, or no, 2640 BC, the Egyptians gave this name, king disease, because it was the only people who got afflicted by the disease were those who were a part of the king's cabinet.
Wow.
Right? They had access to alcohol. They had the means to eat exquisite meat. They had means to eat seafood, and they were gluttonous about it. And that's why they got afflicted with king's disease. And if you know anybody that got gout, it starts to slow you down because it works on the joints. So you lose mobility.
Come on now. I see.
You start losing mobility. But the other connection, because I don't want to just talk about gout, right? I'm from the Bronx. Hip hop is very personal to me. And I'm going to just be real, I'm a whole guy. But what Nas is doing right now, this resurgence
Yes, sir.
with
Yes,
the king's
sir.
disease,
Yes, sir.
and how he's having a resurgence, basically giving game to the youngins.
Yep.
I've been the top dude in the game.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Rise, fall, I had this chick, that chick, I made all the money. Let me tell you, let me give you the roadmap
Yes,
of
sir.
what not to do.
Yep. Yep.
So let me be clear. Every man in this room is a king, but we are afflicted with a disease. And awareness breeds choice. So if I don't make you aware of your disease, then we can never cure your affliction.
Good one.
He caught you.
Good.
And if you're not aware, then there's a good chance that you leaning into this affliction, right? Remember, king's disease only comes from overconsumption. You have to be privileged. You have to be blessed with something in order to even have this disease. Next slide. All right? For the sake of this conversation, think of king's disease as a metaphor for us realizing that we have to focus on doing the right things and avoiding indulging in negative behavior. Next slide, D. So y'all know I like science and like nerdy stuff, so I just need to give y'all some data points real quick. You know what I'm saying? So, as I looked into this, one of the key elements of king disease is it comes just by the way of your lifestyle. Remember, the people who were afflicted by king's disease were privileged enough to live a certain lifestyle. They had the means to get access to certain resources in abundance. So about 12% of the cases of gout, right, king's disease, comes from lifestyle. Hit the next one. But about 60% of those afflicted with king's disease, it comes from genetics. It's inherited, it's passed down, it's hereditary.
Talk that talk.
Let me just be clear, I don't stand here before you the man that I am without some of the men in the back of this room. So to understand how things are passed down, matter of fact, let me back up. I was watching Black Panther. Anybody? Wakanda?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's personal to me. My last name is Mutunga. So you know, absolutely. But one of the most profound points in the movie to me was his father dies. And he's struggling, right? He's missing his father. So he wants to go back to the ancestral plane so he can meet his father to get counsel. He's a king and he's a warrior, but he still seeks the counsel of his father. So they send him to the ancestral plane, and he goes, and his father's like, my son, you're fine. Right, like my job as a father was to prepare you for my absence. And his son is like, but Baba, I want to be a great king like you. And his father looked at him and said, my son, he said it's very challenging for a good man to be a good king.
Yep.
That's what he said.
Like he looked at his son like I know what's waiting for him. I know he got the best of intentions.
Talk about it.
Right?
Lord have mercy.
Like my son is still idolizing me. I'm his father and his king, and he wants to follow in my footsteps, but he don't realize the disease that I have. Because shortly after he left the ancestral plan, what did he find out about his father's secret? The thing that caused his throne to be challenged. The thing that caused Wakanda to be vulnerable. That one secret that wasn't shared. My affliction, right? Now we're gonna tie this all in. My affliction, I didn't realize I inherited from my father where his came from. So one of the reasons I got into work was because I was desperate to be my absolute best self. I need to understand, and part of that is going back and connecting the dots. Well, why is my father this way? Because I have some of his ways just by nature. I didn't grow up in a home with my father, but we make the same sounds. We have the same affects. 60% of it is hereditary. You can't help it. And you look in my family, they will tell you I'm my father's twin. My father will tell you, of all my children, you are most like me, but you have your mother's heart. Doing the work has shown me that understanding creates compassion. So we only lack compassion for people because we don't quite understand who they are and what they struggle with, what their affliction is. Me and my father's relationship has always been tense because he was afflicted. So his mother, right? So of the siblings, my father's the oldest boy. So culturally, he's responsible for everything that's moving and shaking when my grandfather's not around. His mother locked him and his siblings in the house, locked the windows and the doors, and set the gas on. Wow. And left them. So as a kid, I'm not realizing why me and my pops is bumping heads. I'm like, yo, my man don't embrace me. He don't embrace me. He just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah, that's my son, and cool, but like, I'm not about to pat you on your back or tell you what you're doing good, or I'm not about to affirm you. I'm gonna correct you when you're out of pocket, though. And what it caused me to have this problem because I'm, as a boy, you're trying to find yourself through your father. And until I humanized my father to understand his affliction, his disease, could you imagine what it's like for your mama to lock you in the house and set the gas on and leave you for dead? Your mother. So my father just naturally don't trust nobody. If his mother could do that to him,
Right.
the person who's supposed to teach you how to nurture and love, he don't have it to give to me. So I'm asking him of something that he's not capable of. Here's one of the important things I realize is intent doesn't negate impact.
Come on, Doc.
So his intent is to be the best father he can, but in doing that, he's gonna bleed some of that stuff on me.
Come on.
So some people's memories don't go back that far, but I remember walking into the crib with my mother and coming in and like all the stuff being gone. And I'm walking through the house and my mother's trying to like hold it together, but she knows he left. And I remember us going in the room and going to like the closet, and he got like, you like leave the joint ajar. It was like a little shirt hanging in there to make it seem like it was closing me, but it wasn't. And so when they split, it created this complex in me where it's like, well, if this person who created me don't embrace me,
Come on.
then can I really trust if anybody else is going to embrace me? And it created this ultra independence in me. Now, some people look at independence as a good thing. But really, independence and codependency are opposite sides of the same coin. So my disease was derived from overcompensating, trying to be super self-sufficient, not realizing that we actually need each other. Next slide, please. The rest of King's disease comes from other medical conditions you have, right? So some people get gout because of something else they got. And the body is just trying to, adjust it. You end up, getting gout, but it ain't because you got it directly because of some food you eat or lifestyle. Next slide. What I realized in studying great people and studying kings is that success has destroyed way more people than failure has.
My. Stay there. Yeah.
Again, awareness breeds choice. So if we do not have knowledge of self,
Come on.
then we cannot make choices that are in alignment with who we are. So if nobody has ever told you that you're a king, if nobody has ever told you that you're great or that you're worth anything, then you're not going to be able to choose and make choices that are in alignment with anything of value. Right? And that's the real scary part, because there's things that we know, there's things that we know we don't know, but the things we don't know that we don't know, we can't do anything about. And what I want you to know is all of the choices that you're making in your life right now come from what you know to be available to you, but it doesn't mean that that's all of the choices that exist.
Come on. That's right.
And that's why exposure is important,
Yeah.
because it gives you access to more options.
Yeah.
Your dream life is out there. You just ain't been exposed to the option to choose it. So I was the champion in my neighborhood. Them bricks that I grew up in the projects, I was the golden child. But being great over here made me kind of subpar over here when I stepped into this arena with men of God. Because I knew the ways of the block, but I didn't know the ways of the world. I didn't know the ways of the word. You feel what I'm saying? So I walk into this room and I see the presence. And so for a little bit, I'm from the Bronx. I'm like, all right, cool. I see you. Like, all right. You know what I'm saying? And immediately, again, because of who I was attached to, they started loving on me. They started loving on me. And I'm like, first of all, bro, I don't even know you like that. I remember we was walking down we went to go eat, and one of our brothers, Quest, was saying something to me, trying to give me like marriage advice. And I looked at him like, first of all, you ain't qualified to have this conversation with me. I don't really know you like that. But he was saying it in love. He was giving me real game. But because of my affliction, I wouldn't allow myself to receive counsel. Like, success, Hov said, most kings get driven so insane that they try to hit the same vein that Kurt Cobain did. Right? Like, you see sex, you see suicide. Like, one, as you ascend, you get away from your people, but it's isolating up there. Right? And you look at the affliction of these people. Right? My favorite prayer, Solomon prayer. You look at Solomon's story, he went to God. Right? Hit the next slide. Like, Solomon was also like, God, I'm seeking wisdom and knowledge. I want to rule your people the best way possible. Remember, intent doesn't negate impact. You can have the best intentions, but it doesn't stop you from creating a negative experience, even though, like my mom used to say, like, the road to hell was paved with good intentions.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So Solomon was like, listen, God, I want to serve your people in a great way. Give me the discernment to be able to lead. But what we know about Solomon is he had too much dip on his chip. He started making statues. He started getting a whole bunch of women friends. King's disease, overconsumption. Here's the reality of the situation. He wouldn't have even been able to choose those things if he wasn't king.
Come on, Doc. Come on, Doc.
He was blessed with something. He had a responsibility as a king. Remember, when I told you the role of a king is for him to not put his personal desires over the desires of his kingdom and his people. He got away from that. So God tells Solomon, hit the next slide. He's like, listen, you came to me and you asked me for wisdom and understanding, so I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless you with wealth. I'm going to bless you with riches. I'm going to bless you with long life. What are you doing with the blessings that are being given to you? What's in your hand? And what are you doing with it? My bro Toe said, it's hard to get your gift from God when both your hands is full. What's your hand? What's in your hands? Hit the next slide, D. Now, one thing I have learned is when the universe picks you, there's rules that come with it. There's rules. Dick Gregory said that. When the universe picks you, there's rules that come with that. Right? And I have this connection with Dick Gregory because he reminded me of my grandfather. They're like, the same sense of humor, the spirit, that rawness. But Dick Gregory said, listen, here are the rules. Once the universe put the glasses on you, you can never unsee. You can never unsee. You can't trade it away. Right? And there's some things that you just don't have to deal with that the everyday person don't have to deal with. So are you accepting of the fact that you are a king? Have you embraced the idea? Here's one thing I learned studying psychology. Behavior is a function of identity. So the way that you behave is derived from who you believe yourself to be. When we think about, you think about Einstein, his theory of relativity, E equals mc squared and that. When it comes to humans, the forefather is Dr. Kurt Lewin. And he said behavior is a function of the environment and the individual. When you study behaviorism, you understand that the environment will change the individual before the individual changes the environment. Right? And then we've all heard the cliche of the twins whose father was an alcoholic, right? Right. They asked one twin, he was like, well, I don't drink because my father was an alcoholic. And they asked the other twin, and he was like, well, I'm alcoholic because my father was an alcoholic. Right? I say that to illuminate the point that the individual is the variable. You can grow up in the same environment with the same parents, but your mental environment. We all in the same room, and we all seeing the same things, but the way we relate to them is different.
That's right. That's right.
The way we relate to it is different. But when you get in a space with a bunch of kings, where everybody in the environment is a king, it ain't but too long until that light bulb goes on. And now your behavior changes. I was doing the best that I could. And my best was amazing over here, but it wasn't going to cut it. I remember getting on the prayer line a couple mornings and Sharon would tear. Listen, it's certain people that have permission to speak to me a certain type of way. Shannon one of them people. And Shannon would just be like, baby boy, well, if you can't deal with it, just say that. Let's be honest with you. Let's just be honest with yourself. You want to be a husband? You want to be a king? Well, there's certain things that come with that. You was chosen and you chose that. We're not going to sit up here and cry about it. So answer the call or no. The choice is yours. Hit the next slide, B. So I want to offer you some mindsets to step into. All right? I need you to understand that the way that you think informs the way that you feel. The only thing a thought wants to do is become a word or action. That's the only desire a thought has. And everything in this world was created twice. First in the mind, and then it's manifested in the physical.
That's right. That's right.
The chairs that you're sitting in, somebody thought about that.
Yup.
Somebody had to think about it first. God said, hey, before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you.
Yeah.
You don't just wait by happenstance.
Come on.
Come on,
He
man.
had a very particular script for you to run to. But he also gave you free will.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a king, but if you don't act like one, it reminds me of like Coming to America. Y'all remember Coming to America? Eddie Murphy like, I just want to be a common person. And he working at McDonald's. King Jockey Joe came like, what? What is this foolishness? You know what I'm saying? This is not becoming of you. Forget what you choose to do. You're my son. And as the son of a king, you got certain responsibilities.
Come on.
My.
So the way that you think informs the way that you feel, but the way that you feel informs the things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rhyme and a reason. Remember, behavior is a function of identity. How you identify from what you think, what you feel, right? But it's a choice that we make.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the street, but I never felt like I was a street dude.
Mm.
I had exposure. I had like the reverse Fresh Prince experience, right? Like I grew up, my mom would work, like food stamps, she was taking care of everybody, cool, but I would go see my pops on like the weekend, and it was like the reverse Fresh Prince experience. I had to pull up to the crib like, 5,000 square foot house, cars in the driveway. They got like wind chimes on the door. So I got exposed to certain things that my friends back home didn't get to see. They didn't get to see that, so they didn't know that it was more available to them. So the seed was planted. I was already a king, but I didn't have the awareness to unlock that. I didn't have the awareness to choose to behave like one. Because once you behave like a king, it permeates through the kingdom. And here's the thing that I realize is, when you walk in being a king, it gives other people permission and access to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness breeds choice. You can't choose something you're not aware of. So I'm very intentional about the way that I show up when I come speak.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to a school, or when I work in corporate. I'm very intentional. I can use all the proper words and vernacular, but I'm a kid from the Bronx, we speak colloquialism. It's cool. Because I want a kid from where I come from to see me and understand that they can be successful being themselves.
That's right.
The best version of themselves, but being themselves. They don't have to do nothing weird or goofy to be accepted. Because really a lot of the young brothers is crash dummies because they don't have no guidance. There's nobody showing them there's other alternatives.
That's right.
And I was. And again, because of my affliction, I don't really let people near me. Like my circle is a dot.
Hey, lie.
I'm being real. I don't fool with people. They'd be like, bruh, smile, this is a safe space. I'm like, what are you laughing about? Like, what's... Because that's how I'm wired. Like if we even look at the assessment, I'm a 99D.
Oh, man.
My I is like a 17. My S is a 77. My C probably like 30. But if you look at my environment, it makes sense. I grew up in the Bronx during the crack era.
Yeah.
I was a daddy's boy. My mother would cry because I wouldn't eat or bathe if my father wasn't there. My father leaves at 3. My brother, who's like my father, my brother's the first person I ever felt protected by. My brother, as a teenager, gets killed by police. And in my mind, I go, oh, kids are not safe. Kids can die. Like the people who are supposed to protect me are trying to kill me. And it was at that point I kind of jumped off the porch. Oh, okay. There's nobody here to guard me anymore. And so I just assert myself a certain type of way, just by nature. So I don't let people get close, but once I give it to you, I can't take it back. So anybody that has felt the warmth of my love knows that it is boundless. There's nothing that I will not do for them. But you gotta be careful what environment you're in when you operate like that.
Yeah, that's a word.
You gotta be careful.
Can't give it to everything.
Most kings, yeah, no, I gotta go back to Hope. Most kings get their head cut off. The king got a whole army. The king got a council. The only way to get close to a king, to kill him, is to be somebody that he trusts. So I don't really be fooling with people like that. I'm kind of like, I gotta read you. And I might just throw a little thing at you just to see how you respond. But once I lock in with you, we family forever. Here's the thing though, once I became aware of who I was, it gave me access to fill in the gaps for what I lacked. Can you hit the next slide? So there's freedom in knowing who you are. Knowing who you are gives you access to certain things. All right? God already blessed you. He already stamped it. He stamped and approved you. But if you don't know what's available to you, if you don't know what inheritance is there, then you'll go about your whole life living like you're a commoner. And you've been a king all along. Let me tell you something. When people know who you belong to, and that name means something, it hit different. People treat you different.
True.
People treat you different. It is the way that it is. The king and the pauper don't get treated the same. And I'm telling you, I watched my entire life change in this environment with this group of men because of who I was attached to. Oh, that's John cousin? That kissing of the teeth, some of my island people, y'all know, the kissing of the teeth wasn't for frustration. The kissing of the teeth was like, man, you family. Whatever you need. And I've watched these men take this kid from the Bronx that was raw and polish him. And through accountability, serve as sandpaper for my soul.
Mercy.
Hard conversations. I'm talking about ugly cry. Boogers out my nose cry. Talking about if we wasn't on this prayer line in the presence of God, I'd punch you in your face for the way you're talking to me. But they helped give me what I didn't have. And in doing so, it made me grateful for the experience that I had with my father, because now as a man with my own family, it allows me to humanize him. I get it, I understand. And without giving it to me, he gave it to me. Because once I had awareness of who I was and what my disease was, what my affliction was, I can begin to go seek what I need. That make sense? It's a choice. The privilege is already there. Some of us literally are operating like Kal-El and we Superman. And we playing soccer with kryptonite and wondering why we keep bumping our head. Hit the next slide. When you know who you are, right, it allows you to experience the freedom to live the way God designed you to. the way God formed you to. Access.
Yep.
Access is a byproduct of exposure. I found it really, really interesting that all of this time I had been going to the feet of my brothers in prayer. And the only thing I would ask them was, y'all know, Solomon prayer, I need a double cup of wisdom and understanding. And because I forgot what my name meant, well, I forgot who I was attached to, my grandfather told me, I've been asking for the thing that was already in me all this time. The seed was already there. I can look at y'all and ignore this bottle of water right there. But it's there for me to use to nourish my body. So are we using the privileges, the blessings that are afforded to us to harm us or to bless others? Are we using that crown to be a blessing to other people or a hindrance? Like, you got king DNA running in you, but you can't just rest on your laurels. Like, just being a king, I think one of the most dangerous things that you can be is smart.
That's a fact.
And to know that you're smart.
Yeah.
My.
So that's a fact.
That's enough now.
Right. When you know you're smart, you realize you don't have to try.
Yep.
You start to cut corners. You abandon the call to order. I don't gotta try this hard. My 70, my 30 is, 120. I'm cool. And some of us get comfortable being the king. But what are you the king of?
Come
on, bro.
Like, one of the things for me, like, it was really difficult. I had this thing about respect. Like, when I lived in this environment, you needed to have respect. Because if I let you get over on me, now every time I come outside, I got everybody trying me. So I got this thing about respect. But I had to mature as a man and be like, well, are you gonna waste all your time fighting somebody that you perceive to disrespect you?
Right.
And quite frankly, why do you care about the respect of this person? Do you respect them even? Why do you care about the respect of somebody that you don't respect? Why does that matter to you? And I have to start to unpack where that comes from. And we all have this trauma, this schema, this disease, this king's disease that we inherited. This thing that is afflicting us. But if we're not taking action, right, to cure or to curb the effects of it, then our kingdom is not going to get word. Our kingdom ain't going to flourish. We've seen kings that have poor kingdoms, and we've seen kings that have had flourishing empires. Next slide. So these are the things that I had to do. Not something I read in the book, but my lived experience. How I was able to unlock my king DNA. And stand and live in that. All right, so I had to first decide like what I was devoted to. Was I devoted to being who I was, what was familiar to me? Or would I embark on a journey of embracing things that was uncomfortable so I could be my absolute best self? Was I okay with being the greatest? Was I okay with having 100% of a grape? Or having 10% of a watermelon? Was I attached to my will or what God had designed for me? What's your devotion? Because your devotion dictates your direction. The devotion, the thing you devote yourself to, dictate what environment you're going to be in and what kind of individuals you're going to surround yourself with. So now I can't chill on the block with y'all no more. They're like, yo, D, you talking about the moon and the stars. You know, all this philosophical stuff. Like, let's just go eat a chicken sandwich. I'm like, Or sometimes I gotta tell my auntie or my mother, like, I don't want to involve myself in those types of conversations. Don't mean that I don't love y'all, but I'm trying to do this thing over here. The next thing you gotta establish is non-negotiables.
Yes, sir.
Non-negotiables. My mother, Lyra, had non-negotiables. And guess what? You didn't get to decide what the non-negotiables were. The non-negotiables were set because you was her child. And she ain't care nothing about your feelings. We not smoking, we not drinking. Excuse my French, but my mother would tell the boys, it's books before broads. Get them books. Like my mother just had non-negotiable things that we not doing. I don't care who you with. If something happened in the hood and my mother found out about it, I got a beating just because my name was brought up. Why was you associated? Why was you in the environment of that? I was like, Mama, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do that. Somebody mentioned your name. You one of mine. We don't do that. You will only be as successful as you are accountable. Right? And the quickest way to figure out who you are is to figure out who you're not. That's why I love, that's why I love the assessment, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I was going through it. Figuratively and literally, my kingdom was falling apart. And my obsession to being better made me go sit at the feet of somebody who would teach me something. And every single day, since May 22nd, 2017, there's not been a day I have not studied or looked at an assessment or mine. Not one day. Not because I'm trying to be sweet. I wasn't even charging people. I wanted to be my best self. I needed to understand. Like, them graphs and those charts is cool, but I needed to understand why I was that way, so I had to tap into the story attached to it and the narrative. Why don't I like to let people get close to me? Because the person that I was closest to, my father, left. He was still in my life, but I didn't feel covered anymore. So, if for any means, I don't like to say hello to new people because I hate to say goodbye.
Wow.
You want to know why I'm so loyal? Because I know what it is to feel alone. And subconsciously, I would be living my life in such a way where I just want to find one person who's as loyal to me as I am to them. They came from my disease. A disease that was passed down, that was inherited. I didn't choose that. Some of us got medical conditions. Nobody chooses to have that. Some of us, because of our lifestyle, develop these things, but most of us don't choose to have an affliction. Right? So we have to be accountable. I found myself before people who can teach me how to get out of my own way. How to access all of the things that was laying at my feet as a child of God, as a man, as a king. There's a lot that comes with that title. And so again, you only get successful as you are accountable, so I sought the accountability. I didn't wait for it to come to me. And I adopted the mentality that the better I am, the better we are. As a king, it's my duty to rule over this kingdom. It's my duty, it's my responsibility. So I want every single man that's listening to the sound of my voice to really understand and etch it in your spirit. The better you are, the better we are. Trump told you about the communities and how men are being etched out as cultures, right? If you go look at some of the safest cultures in the world, you'll find that one, they're Muslim-led countries, and they keep men at the forefront of culture. Everything is derived from the structure of the family with the man at the head. Everything. They don't care if you're a tourist coming to visit, there's certain things you can't do when you're here.
That's right.
Y'all not married, y'all not shacking together.
Right, yeah.
And we have to have this mentality in our homes, in our communities, in our environments, virtual or otherwise.
That's right.
But you gotta put it on your shoulders. The better you are, the better everybody else is. And I just ask, are you going to accept the challenge?
Mm-hmm.
It's my time.
Yeah.